Wait, no, don't break the law. We don't have to keep breaking the law. All right, no, that works. You be careful. All right. Bye-bye.
See, this is happening because this is your fault on the quorum and the attendance.
Whose fault?
Yours, you don't do a performance review on the board.
Can we do a performance review on the board?
You can do anything, you're the chair.
It's an all-powerful position. That was Nora. She's running about 20 minutes late.
I think the issue comes down to just the.
I'm not sure if Fish, no, I did at the last meeting. Was it? Yeah, I went down to the tour.
I'm not sure that it would have mattered.
Yeah.
She was working on the right. Honestly, I think it's gonna.
I think it'll be closer. I still don't know.
The only good thing I think about her is that I'm gonna keep my report short. I only have slides for it.
Like about every 2 to 3 months, I'm having, I get like about an inch or two cut off because it was so severely damaged from coloring it dark. And it just got really, so anyway. Oh, thank you. It's easier. Then I bought this brush. I think it's by Revlon. But anyway, it's a dryer and a brush. And it's really dynamite because it's like, you just like, you can roll it out. Because everything's like plastic. It has some bristle in there too, but it's rubber.
And you use it on wet hair. It's kind of like a dryer too, right?
It's a dryer, yes. So,
So it's stylish.
yeah, it styles, and, well, kind of styles. But, yeah, it's really easy, and it's a lot better than having long hair, because it was long. Remember how long it was? It was almost down to my waist. And I just thought, I looked in the mirror one day, I thought, yeah, no. And for young girls, yes, but.
The only people I know that they mentioned is that she expected.
Hello, gentlemen. Hi. I'm well. How are you? Good to see you.
So, up to 15 members of the legislature and the speaker of the house.
Oh, that's right. That's
Are you aware of that? Yeah, I figured they might have found you to do.
no, they don't call me.
Back in the yard.
That's fine now to back channels and.
But remember, it's in Santa Teresa, that's like a bridge too far.
Right. I know I'm doing campaign thing.
Mhm.
For the speaker committee, can be Cholos. I think my majority leader, Javier Martinez,
And he's your representative.
Local speaking and all the good official support.
So where is it at?
Chopes, not
Oh,
Chopes.
Chopes.
Chopes. Yeah, I say Chopes.
It's Chorley. So I don't have Chorley. There's so many, like, things going on, you know, it's
And this is my fourth week of the month, so this one, since I only have the transit board meeting. Sarah over there?
Yes, but
No, part of the job.
Trying to get rid of my paper.
you know, it's okay.
Make a copy of some of that stuff in case you need something else.
Question, do you have?
We inherited that. Goes back to the,
See, that's the thing, I think you need that they've got.
it was created by the COG. So I guess the only thing is, since I maybe originally had the SCRTD, maybe I can try going to that with that email, and see if there's any way. I can restructure, because at some point they might have put my name down. But
Got a meeting with the meeting?
I've never gone and done student concerts. What do we need to do that again for?
Okay, for Dell.
Oh, it's the Dell. But this came up recently.
Well, see, the thing is, Dell is Access, Dun& Bradstreet, their account, or our account.
I think it's in the grant. I think it's in the grant that I'm working on, because I swore I read something in that 100,000 pages of stuff about Dun & Bradstreet. So that we have to do a run or something on Dun & Bradstreet.
Well, I'll see if I can contact them and everything to get some additional information. So that I can go ahead and bring that up. I could just resubmit.
Yeah, that's all I can tell. So I've never been on there that I can. Papers or grants that people were working with. I spent so much time with WSP, we ended up rejecting the proposal. They wanted, we're supposed to have 20 grand for the zero. They wanted 30 grand. And then they had started with 20 grand for the grant writing, it went to 32 and a half, I got them down to 19 plus. And then they wanted 50 grand a year for 5 years to manage the project, assuming we get the grant. And my view is, first of all, if we get the grant, then we'll decide, and they, commit to 250 grand.
Is it coming back in county?
I just figured we'll let them go. So,
Yeah.
SBLB has added Ken Fisher, who's helping with the VAMPO program, and Bob.
Some of us are not happy with.
Uh,
Oh, let me ask you this. Yeah. It's a program that allows installation of solar panels and or you charge it towards on the tax rate. So doing it comes with well, we enacted it a couple of years ago, and I think we have.
Let me put it this way, anything that's in there, this is where we are as of the third quarter. There's still opening for changes up to the fourth quarter. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, we do the third quarter and everything, the 20,000.
Oh, for the grant? Yeah, we haven't even received it. I'm still waiting on Deborah. She's supposedly back today. Maybe we'll start hearing some stuff. We've been getting some progress out of Alexis. I sent Alexis stuff directly today and copied Deborah, and we got some responses.
I get better responses with Alexis, even though I don't always get responses from Alexis. But, all right. But if that's the case, then what we want to do is be able to put on here the zero emissions, and I've got that kind of part of the current.
Well, there's that, and remember, I asked for more money for the intercity at their request. We've been talking since January, and it's April, almost May. So I have less and less hope that that's gonna happen. I don't know what happened there. I mean, we can still put it in this year's grant, we could still run service. I've already thought that if I did it now, I would probably amend the silver and run the silver longer hours, just go with that.
Yeah. We're not involved in that. The only thing that we allow, we go through the government agencies to allow for people on the pass.
I'm good.
There's no other involvement.
mean, they could have said, but you just know it, so, even, I mean, if they would have said, we'd like to be in step with, the city of Massachusetts' efforts to, go green or something like that, maybe, but it sounds like a collaboration.
No,
But he's, pero paro, I think somebody caught it, before I could do it.
and the legislation has changed. We had to deal with
Oh,
this.
oh.
And then there were more deals.
Okay.
Lo tengo que tiempo ahora.
Exactly. So your meeting's tomorrow?
Yeah. Yes.
So how great are you?
He's okay. I mean, he's learning the process. This is his second term. This would be the third if he, yeah, but not in the 2-year term, so you're campaign all the time. 4 years.
And then you run twice. Well, I'm not gonna do it. No, it's just that, get to a point in your life where you go, what am I doing? What was I thinking?
And do we have, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4? We're missing one?
So Barasa gets removed.
Usually is. I don't believe, Christina, I don't think, Meiji, email. I don't think it's.
No, I don't.
I gotta work with, the village patch. Hopefully you can do it. Yeah, he was over there for the first.
Do we have someone on the board from her? Who is it?
It's on, let's look at the agenda, members absent, it's Peter Atencio. He had succeeded, Whitlaw. But, and like you said, he was there for the first meeting, he hasn't been since.
It's so important for. Like we have David on top of it.
Well, now I'm turning over to Christina, so when it fails.
Christina, now it's Christina.
So I want you thinking of Christina, when you see the emails.
Oh, yeah, well, yes,
Think more of
thank you.
Christina, less of David. At some point, you may not even see an email.
Well, I was
That's my-
surprised to see that it came from Christina because you usually send them out and I go, I guess David has a really boring life. Sends it out a Sunday afternoon, and there I am with my boring life on Sunday.
All right, let's see. Got our person on the phone.
We're just missing one more person, so once we get one additional member, we'll get started.
And how much time do you wait? Do you leave it?
Well, I know Mayor Barras is on her way. She said she, I guess, she has a doctor's appointment and.
So she's on her way.
Yeah.
So we'll have quorum with 5?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. And who else?
We have,
Kathy.
Counselor Harmon.
So he's a member.
Who?
Kathy Harmon.
Yeah.
She-
Yeah.
You know, Minnesota, so we have quorum.
So we have Hash, we have, Anthony, who's the mayor here, Marina. And Williamsburg. Trustee Howard. Yeah.
It just gives you an opportunity to yell at them. Criticize and add to it.
You're funny like a little boy. But, in serio, if we don't call the meeting to order and you make that report, it's not part of the record.
No, that's true. No.
So you don't want it to.
It won't hurt my feelings. I was in a meeting that, when I was working for the city center for about 3 decades ago. And I needed to get the ADA plan approved, which is a pretty good thing. And so we had to go through various committees and so on. So I was in one of the committees, executive committee deals, and we had this fight with the staff. I mean, it was brutal between the staff. Like, this thing went on and on and on. And they just, I started at 4, we were at 6 o'clock, and they hadn't broken for dinner, come back to the meeting. So they said, well, we just have the one item we just how would you like to proceed? And I stood up and I said, I'd like to ask for a stay. I'll come back next time. And one of the board members, senior, said, are you kidding? I said, I'm good with it, because I have issues too. And I don't think you all are in the right position to do this without having a meeting. So I'll come back. And it was the biggest joke to all laughed. They stayed me over.
So they were tired, hungry.
It was just brutal. We had meetings that would go well beyond midnight at city council.
What time did they start?
We started at 4. We'd run the initial executive committee, have dinner, come back, set a public hearing, and then we would continue. The worst one was when the union rep threatened my life.
Oh, wow.
A union rep threatened your life?
Yeah, publicly.
Well, did he get arrested or she get
The
arrested?
law enforcement came over, and I was like the guy with the George Will Smith thing. I said, no thanks.
Oh, that's scary. The longest we've had, the longest meeting we had, I think, because we started at 1, council meeting. And then, we were at Morgan Mountain Fiscal, on the gun safety issue. It went till 9:45. And then they were waiting for us, the gun rights people. They're ready to kill you, forget the gun rights, and the right to kill is what
And the
they
city
want.
of Santa Fe does public comment twice.
Briefly.
At the beginning of the meeting and at the end.
Oh, the mayor does that too. He does it at the beginning if it's not on the agenda, and then if it is on the agenda, then you can, the same person can speak on different issues.
Well, so they kept, I stayed on because of that, some issues, but my item was done. And then they got into this political situation. So the mayor, Isaac Pino, we were in the region, he sent everybody home. Well, he did it too soon. And they were able to fashion a deal, and they needed to amend the proclamation, or resolution, I should say, resolution. And so they had no one to type it. So I'm in the mayor's office, I typed the resolution. From scratch.
Oh, from scratch?
Yeah.
You mean you wrote it?
I could do 40 words a minute, but you know, I've got this thing, and I said, well, we want you, let me get it in that you wrote, and then we'll make the changes.
Yeah.
I said, Peter, the mayor. Anyway, it was crazy.
So what city is that?
Today is Santa Fe, or Capitol. We got done about 2 a.m. Yep, I had little kids. You know, the thing about a meeting like that, when you come home, is you just kind of veg. You've been there for 8 hours, 10 hours.
Well, your whole, what's it called? Your whole rhythm. You know, your whole, what's it called? I feel that word, something to see, harmonious.
That's the card, where the card.
That's cardi, that's, yeah.
Is it cardi rhythm? No, it's a cardi rhythm.
Yeah, it's
That's
something
hard
like
stuff.
that.
No, that's right.
No, that's a, no, there is a thing, where your body, you know, like getting up early in the morning is, you know, usually very healthy, going to bed after, you know, soon after sunset. Circadian.
So no,
Circadian rhythm.
Sarah, no response from Mayor for you?
No,
I called him and I sent him a text, but
Try calling Mayor Baraza. That for,
I think she talked to
Yeah.
yeah, for 20 minutes might not be 20 minutes.
my 20 minutes We'll sit down and have a nap, a meal. She's not here yet.
I may be pretty good, like, I have to read 7 minutes.
Wow.
Hey, Zach. Okay, how are you? You want me to call me? Oh, I'm not doing this. Oh, wow, congratulations. That's big. Oh, Mendoza? I really like Yvonne. She worked on my campaign. Yeah, she's good people.
So you would start out
Yeah.
for what, today? Would have started in March. What's the difference?
Yeah, well, congratulations.
Through, before you get to the fourth and seventh. I actually don't know. I think you figure out what we should.
Because it can be that, by the time it gets to the
Well, my item went white.
Well, I have a question. Do you have a Democratic?
Except for the two crazy votes.
Yeah, you know what, I was, it was brought to my attention as president of consideration, that I'm, you know, the national rules and the state rules are a little bit, and then like Julia Brown said that I wasn't in violation. I was in violation, but I think.
And Julia,
When I was at.
one of the
So, yes, I could, you know, still making contributions and stuff like that. Public affairs, kind of, or see, and, besides, I'm not gonna be here anyway. I'm gonna be in Dallas, yeah, in the Federation.
Just getting home.
Oh, you're gonna be at the Federation, up in Dallas on the 13th?
A lot of interesting experience.
All candidates, right? Yeah, yeah. Oh, so then I'll see you then. Again.
read it, what Castle Beach back down. If I'm running a better.
Well, this is important for us on DFA, right? We need to get the third quarter approved. To get that to them.
Okay,
You
so
know, it's funny,
I'm waiting for
before we
it,
took over
minute to
from the
start.
cog,
It's like, we don't have a
transition
forum, but I
to
think
the
this is
never
something
filed.
down.
What?
Okay, we're so welcome, Zach.
Because they did. They started when I asked questions of the other issues. I think when we were first getting some of the grants, that's when they asked me, well, you would file. He didn't file. What would be a thing? I said, is that you? Yeah, the first 3 years that we were running services, we never filed a quarterly report as annual. Then at first, we filed annual, because that's what they asked for. Then it was about a year later, I think it was just before you came, they started doing reporting. Because they requested it. And then last year, they changed his report to say, well, you need to use this form.
Yeah, that was,
Now, that's new.
we had to change our.
I like their form, I still need to switch it back. They have a form which is very distinct. They have a full-page form that's that high level. I like that. And by that, I mean, it's a form that just basically says, here's your total cost, total revenue expense. And I think that one in tandem with the annual one. Because if you start throwing all that data in there, it's
I get confused quite easily.
This is starting to get long.
Maybe it's because there's so much
So
information.
Sarah, no answer?
No answer. Mayor Barra's not with me.
Easy. Fire? Simple. All connected to 24/7 professional monitoring.
Donald Trump needs to pay every day. The New York State judge says the former president is willfully disobeying a prior order to comply with a subpoena for documents relating to the New York Attorney General's investigation into the Trump Organization finances. The judge ruled that, quote, Donald J. Trump is in contempt of court and must pay a fine of $10,000 per day until he purges such contempt to the satisfaction of this court. Joining me now, CNN legal analyst, former federal prosecutor Jennifer Rogers. Counselor, thank you so much for being with us. Just first of all, how do you pay? I mean, like, how do the mechanics of that work? How does Donald Trump, if he's going to pay, actually pay the court?
Well, good morning, John. It's good to see you back and looking so well. So you just pay this the way that you would pay anyone?
We're minutes away from
House,
when
you write a
we're
check or
waiting
you use cash or even a credit card. The wrinkle here, of course, is it's $10,000 every single day. So they're going to be running down there every morning or afternoon. And that, for a person who reputedly hates to pay anything, even for bills he's voluntarily done, then it's going to sting for sure.
Could he pay forever? Theoretically, say, you know what? I'd rather pay $10,000 a day forever than turn over the document.
Well, the thing about civil contempt is it's coercive. It's supposed to actually force you to do whatever the judge has ordered you to do. So if the judge becomes convinced that he will just pay forever, then it's really no longer coercive. It's not working anymore. In that case, I think the judge would up the ante, either increase the fine or the nuclear option. There's actually a possibility that you could go to jail and sit in jail until you pay. But I don't think the judge will just let him pay $10,000 indefinitely, even if Donald Trump wanted to do that, which I think is very unlikely.
Now, what if he didn't pay? What if he says, you know what, I'm not paying? I mean, in the past year, one of the things we've seen is people affiliated with Trump just saying, I'm not participating.
All right.
Well, a couple of things.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Increase the amount.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'm here. This
No,
is Mayor Murillo.
Mayor Murillo, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us here. With that, we'll get started with this regular meeting of the South Central Regional Transit District. Today is April 27, 2022. It is 1:52 p.m. This session is now in order. If I can join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor Flores, if you can lead us, please.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
All right, if I can have a roll call, please.
Javier Perea.
Present.
Nora Braza is absent. Meju Powie is absent. Yvonne Flores.
Here.
Lynn Ellens.
Here.
Kathy Harmon. Here. Diana Trujillo.
Present.
Thank you.
All right, we do have a quorum. Moving on to the rest of the agenda, approval of the agenda order. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda order.
I so move.
I have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Murillo. Is there a second?
Second by Flores.
Motion has been seconded by Councilor Flores. Any discussion on the agenda order? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Abstentions. Motion carries unanimously. The agenda order has been approved. Item number 5, public input. Do we have any public input? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to item number 6, approval of SCRTD meeting minutes of March 23rd, 2022. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes for March 23rd, 2022.
So moved.
I have a motion on the floor by Councilor Flores. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Mayor Murillo. Discussion on the minutes? Seeing and hearing none, I have a motion on the floor. It has been seconded. Let me have a roll call vote on the matter, please.
Javier Perea.
Yes.
Yvonne Flores.
Yes.
Lynn Ellens.
Yes.
Kathy Harmon.
Yes.
Diana Trujillo.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously. The minutes for March 23rd, 2022 have been approved. Item number 7, Executive Director's Report.
Thank you. Good afternoon. David Armijo, the Executive Director. I've got 4 items I want to take you through, give you an idea of a little bit of the activity we're doing right now and where we're going. And these items have quite a bit of significance for the next decade or longer for this agency. There we go. The 4 items are, we're going to talk a little bit about ridership growth. We got a little bit of a bump this past month. That's a little bit of, what I'm giving you today is an estimate. I haven't seen this week's ridership, but I just took the numbers out one more week. Got a little bit of help from the county with the free rides. That's added a little bit of ridership to it. I'm working on a couple of grant applications. Thankfully, to the economic stimulus package, we are now seeing money come out at the highest rates in a lifetime. I mean, we're talking in each category where we normally have $200 million, maybe $300 million, which is good. We're seeing $1.1 billion for each category. And we have the opportunity to apply more than once. And then we have a requirement of a zero emission plan, which we're putting together at a very fast pace in order to qualify for funding. The funding deadline is May 31st. And then we have new federal funding that I've been discussing on the 5307. So our full allocation is now coming through. So I'll take you through these 4 items. First item, you can see this by route. Ridership has now reached 60,000 rides for the year. We did just shy of 65,000 rides last year, and that was through the fiscal year, which was ended in September. So we're on a rolling 12 months. This is actually our own fiscal year. And so we're doing very, very well. With 2 months to go, we've now reached 60,000, in part because the last couple of months we've done over 7,000 rides. The red route, which is the one that connects New Mexico State University and the Mesilla Valley Transit Center downtown all the way out to Anthony, carried just shy of 800 rides. It's actually carried more than that. Back in September, it carried 854. The purple route was doing okay at 520. The turquoise saw big numbers, so Chaparral is getting more ridership. The yellow route going into El Paso on the west side and the casino stops was well over 4,000 for the first time. And the green route, big numbers last month at 500. We hit 341 this month. And so that went very well. The silver did 577. That connects into the area around Sunland Park and the El Paso's west side. And the copper route, which has been our newest route, kind of slow, started to work its way back to 90. So we did a little over 7,100 rides. And I still think we're kind of undercounting. We're trying to work on the ridership numbers and get a better statistic for that. But generally speaking, when you're doing things manually, we did give the operators handheld counters this last month to try to help them with the counts. And so I've got to do a little more work with that. It's a little harder to do now because before I could extrapolate the ridership counts against the revenue, but the revenue is prepaid, so I don't have that factor to work with. So I'll have to work our way through this as best we can. We may do some sampling on the rides.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Go back to the previous slide.
Yeah.
What line is the yellow line? Where does that run?
Yeah, the yellow line is a line that operates in Sunland Park, actually covers the edge of Santa Teresa, comes through the community, and then works its way to Sunland Park City Hall, runs over very quickly and connects to the casino, and then works its way into downtown El Paso. Goes to their downtown, I think it's Burt Williams Transit Center, and then comes back. It's a 90-minute route end to end, but from the middle of the route, which is around City Hall, it's about 45 minutes in either direction when it goes both ways. And it runs 10 hours a day, Monday through Friday.
And what is the blue line? Where is it?
The blue line is whatever we make it. So the blue line was a route that we used to have a long time ago, and that went away because of low ridership. So we resurrected the blue line. So it actually does special services. When you see the numbers, in fact, it's actually missing one of the numbers that we did carry 111 people 2 weeks ago. So that number is a little bit lower than it should be. So I'll be adjusting those. So the blue line does anything that's a special event. So when we're running the migrants, the El Calvario trips, we would capture it here. We ran a service for which school was it? Sarah, do you remember, Christina? Loretta was handling that. It was about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I was out of town. I can't even remember it, but we, thank you. But anyway, we ran some service for one of the schools. I think it was I want to say, had some disabled kids, some other things. I just can't remember the whole story. We programmed that months in advance, but we ran a lot of trips during the course of the day. And so, yeah, 111 rides. So we put that in that category. That way we can get credit for it.
Because it hasn't been used in 4 months.
No, in fact, the folks for El Calvario have been handling the migrants. I think what they ended up doing, in my understanding, is they bought a couple of vans, and so they've been running the service themselves. All right, thank you. So let me tell you, so we got 2 grants. I'm going to talk about this one first. They call it the No-Low Electric Grant, and what it means by low or no is you can have like hybrid electric buses or some other items as well as electric buses. The U.S. Department of Transportation wants to encourage people to buy and start putting electric buses out. So they've restricted this grant to 25% non-electric. So 75% is electric. And this is one of the grants that was about $200-300 million a year ago, and now it's $1.1 billion. So with that kind of money, one of the reasons I'm going to go through this presentation today and talk about why we're moving for electric is we have an opportunity to get quite a bit of money that we normally wouldn't have. The other thing that this grant allows us to do, which has been really news to me, is that we can avoid a competitive procurement because we can determine who's going to be on our team. This is from the U.S. Department of Transportation. So we're allowed to form a team of consultants and manufacturers. So we can actually pick whose bus we want. Now, in this particular case, the choices are limited. There's a company called Proterra, BYD, which is Chinese, and that's a story upon itself. They're the ones that had issues in Albuquerque. There's New Flyer out of Canada, and there's Gillig Bus out of California. Gillig and Proterra are U.S. companies. Proterra has had an interesting history. They came from university professors. They came up with the idea of doing electric a few years ago, and they located themselves in California because California has a mandate, and about half of the electric vehicles or more in the country right now are in California or are coming that way. And they require, I think everything's got to be electric by 2035, something like that. 2035, I think it's within the next decade, maybe even sooner. And that number was 2030, got pushed back. So we chose Gillig because we have 2 Gillig hybrids. We also know that Gillig's reputation for performance is coming out much better than some of the others. But I'll talk more about that in a minute. We chose SBLB for technical support and service and fleet because they are a contractor we've used before doing our 10-year plan. Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon. I apologize.
That's okay, we're just getting started. And then last on the group is we are getting technical support from the Mesilla Valley MPO, and I wanted to give them credit here. They were very helpful. I'll talk later about the 3-year plan. So this is kind of the team that we have right now, and we got a lot of work to do. So I'll take you through the next slide, which talks a little bit about what the battery, this is what an electric bus would be. So it's the same Gillig bus we have now, except it has nice colors. So I don't necessarily think we'd have those colors, but if we wanted to, we could make it all American. So if it's going to be clean air, we'd do whatever. So it would be battery electric. So the zero emission plan, which has now gone from something that the government would like us to do to a requirement to get federal funding. And of course, they did all this in March. It is now April. We've only had 5 weeks to work on this, and we have 5 weeks to go. And under a congressional act, they have to award the money to everybody that applies, that's approved by the end of August. Start in March, end of August, we order buses. It's a very short timeline. Las Cruces is using BYD, and BYD right now has an exemption because there's some issues with its Buy America, but I guess that's being resolved. They're a good company. SCRTD called me earlier this week for some assistance. Very rare I can ever help SCRTD, so it was kind of nice. So I was able to send him a lot of the information I just shared with you on Gillig and other things. So we are trying to work together. I think at the moment in New Mexico, to my knowledge, it's pretty much North County Transit, Las Cruces, and us. There might be one or two of the smaller regional agencies that we'll find out about in the next month that might be doing this, but most agencies have pushed back. I was prepared to push back another year and wait, but then I started doing the math. If you increase the funding threefold in both categories, I'm getting the next category in a minute, that's sixfold. We're not increasing the number of transit operators. In fact, because you have to do this plan, that reduces the numbers. So let me take you very quickly through the plan. So there's 7 tasks I have to respond to, put this together, and give this to the federal government within the next 4 to 6 weeks. The first part is simply that it's a requirement. Task 1 is easy, existing conditions. We have that in the 10-year plan, so we're just gonna cut and paste, stick it in there. That just explains who we are, how many buses we are, how many facilities we are. It's not that difficult. The second one is service modeling. This is the one that the consultants out there love to make a big thing of. Service modeling is what SBLB has been doing for us in the 10-year plan. It's what I do all the time. Simply put, how many miles does it take to run a bus from A to B? If you did it life cycle or you did it in the course of a day, can you do those miles with the limitations you might have in a shorter range for an electric bus compared to a diesel or gasoline bus? Well, yeah, we can do that. And in point of fact, my plan is to go for, and I'll show that in the next slide, 3 vehicles. And it will be easier if I can put the vehicles closer to where the service area is. Now, we have that to some extent in Anthony, but Anthony with a red bus has to travel 25 miles or more into downtown before it turns around and comes back. It has to travel 35 to 40 miles when it goes across Turquoise to the east side of El Paso and back. So that's a good 80 to 90 miles and so on. Whereas the buses in the Southern District only have to travel from Sunland Park, our facility. They go into service at City Hall, which is a couple miles. Then they either go downtown, which is another 8 miles, 7 or 8 miles, or they go the other way to the end of the line, another 6, 7 miles. Shorter routes. So I can do a service day on the yellow or on the silver for under 150 miles, where these vehicles typically have about 225-mile range. Las Cruces is going to have some fun times. Now, fortunately, because they stay in town, Las Cruces' routes circulate. And so your typical route, even though it could be an hour in service with 30 stops, is probably only going to travel less than 15 miles. So you're actually good. Us going to Hatch in Garfield, that's a big problem. But I'm going to show you a solution I have planned for that. But initial going, we're going to look at probably replacing the Gillig buses we have downtown now at Sunland, and then putting those elsewhere in the service and using electric buses from Sunland Park. The other reason is Sunland Park has to have places to put the electric charging stations. And so we'll be working with the utilities and so on. So there's a whole lot that goes with this. But the service modeling, that's an easy thing to do. Just simply put the facility concepts and phasing, that's really talking about when you're going to get vehicles, where they're going to go, which facility. At some point, we would have vehicles in Anthony, but that might not be for another 4 or 5 years. Even if we get the grant and we award in August, it's 18 months or longer to get the buses, so probably 2 years. So we're looking at 2024. And so if those are the first buses, when we get to the next buses, we're probably talking 2026, 27, 20, and so on. So that's what that is. Cost and life cycle analysis. How long will these vehicles last? What are their costs? We have those numbers. We have those commitments from Gillig and what that would be. And then there's the zero rollout. I've already done the rollout plan for the next 15 years. I haven't shown you that. I'll show you at the next meeting. I have that based on no electric. So I've already done that. I would be giving that numbers to our consultants to take a closer look at. Commissioner Ellens, if you might recall, one of the first times you and I met, I actually showed you that plan. It was a little dated. I've updated it since. That's when we had a long discussion about asset management. And I remember, if you don't mind my saying, you asked me, how are you going to pay for all these things? You know, where's your assets and so on. And so that's what we've been working on is these different plans. Yes.
How, you said that every 2 years you can get electric, every 2 years, and then, so how long would it be before the entire fleet would be electric? Would it be 2035
Well,
or 2030?
well, first, it has to tie to the life cycle of the current buses. Now, fortunately, a lot of our buses are old and getting replaced.
Yes.
We'll replace almost half the fleet this year with the money that we have coming in, that we have planned. So as these start to come in, it would be the next generation. So I'm going to say within 10 years, just the top of my head. Now, some of that could be accelerated. It depends. So, and we do have mid-sized buses coming and smaller vehicles. I'll show you that in a minute. Electric, yes. Yes, there.
Mr. Armijo, and Mr. Chair, what is the capacity of these buses?
That's a good question, Madam Mayor. The same. So in the case of the Gillig that I just showed a moment ago, it's the same 35-footer that we currently have, and I think the capacity of that's about 31 seats. I think we actually renovated it to 32. So it'll be the same.
32, so the capacity is 32?
Yeah.
And that's accommodating ADA handicap?
Yes, and what's actually wonderful about it, no lifts, they're all ramps.
Okay.
And you have 2 boarding locations, front and back.
Okay, good. And my other question is, what is the normal capacity in the Sunland Park area as you pick up customers and take them into El Paso and return?
That was one of the numbers I had to do on this zero emission. So I have the answer.
Great.
Currently, we're doing 38 passengers per revenue hour. So if our cycle is every 90 minutes, you get a sense of what that is. I believe the challenge we've had is we have in the pre-pandemic, where ridership was even higher, we did have times where we had standing loads, even on a larger bus. So that's something we'll have to see as the ridership begins to come back, and it's already beginning that process. But these buses do have the capacity to stand people. And in fact, they're superior to the buses that Sun Metro was using from the standpoint, although those were clean with CNG, the buses were built in the old system. They're very antiquated. You didn't have really good access. These buses are built much more wide open, and you don't have some of the stuff that's in the way. So you have better clarity on the bus as you come in. You have a ramp, not a lift. And so you're able to board the bus front and back in a much better way. And so you can stand, there's stanchions along the way. So you can actually get 50 passengers or more. I don't see that as an issue. In fact, if anything, if we got to that point, we would probably be increasing frequency and getting more buses.
That's my thought. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Armijo. Mr. Chair.
So really to get to the big answer of your question is these are the same. The only difference is the propulsion system. We're using electric, not diesel or gas. So that's really a big thing for that. Just finishing up very quickly on this one. So the rollout plan is pretty well going to be updated. So we'll have 2 rollout plans. So we'll have one that says before and after. So here's what we'll do if we don't do this. Here's what we'll do if we do this. And that's probably the one that you'll want to see the most. Providing service to disadvantaged communities. And talking with one of my consultants, they were not happy with this. And I knew at the moment they were not happy with this that they had not read the regs. And those regs are the 7 pages I gave you to look at the other day, Sarah. You might not have read it well enough. I read a lot. So buried in there, the administration, this current administration has a number of agendas. And one of those is to address this issue. One of the benefits, if not benefits, to this community is that we do fall into a situation where a number of people are in fact disadvantaged. And so as I explained to my consultants, which by the way, I didn't hire them, I went elsewhere. The reality is that could be a benefit to us getting the grant. So that is one of the things I'm working with currently with the Mesilla Valley MPO, and this is one of the questions I'll ask for the El Paso MPO, because those are the folks that deal with the census and all the data that has that. And I'm looking for ways of making a better description, capturing the data so that we stand much more competitive if in fact this is something that they're looking for to award grants, we should get a grant because we definitely qualify in that area. And then the last one is workforce training. That's an emerging area, and so we're just putting in there the kind of training we'll need. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Armijo. What defines a, quote, disadvantaged community? Is it population, income?
There's population or income, there's a census, there's also an equation that's used. I'm not as well suited on that, that's why I'm looking for the MPO people to help me with that. There's an equation that falls into the issues of the poverty levels based on income or not. I mean, some people don't have income, right? So that falls into there as well. We're also looking at it from an individual point of view as well as a family unit. So this falls into multiple categories. So this is a little bit beyond David right now. That's why I need help on this part.
Oh, but then there are certain grants from DOT for the disadvantaged, the federal?
No, that's unfortunate that I'm not aware of that. What there is in the award, there's points. So if we can show our qualifications on this end, we can get points for that. So where we might not be, for example, we're not going to carry as many rides. We're not going to generate as much ridership in this region for the bang for your buck for giving us the money. But on the other hand, if we're serving a community that's underserved in some ways, that's another way of balancing the level, especially if they're shooting hundreds of millions of dollars to the urban areas. What can they give to the rural areas?
Okay, so what do points represent?
Points represent, on their point scale, chance of getting the money, getting the contract award.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so both these last two work really well for us. I'll be talking to some of our people locally on workforce training because we'll need people to be trained on how to handle the electric power, the fuel thing. We'll be working with a local utility on this as well. And then because we're going to be housed by City of Sunland Park, I expect to work with his Public Works Department to get them as well as the county more involved in what we're doing. So at this point in time, it's a village. We need everybody on deck. So a lot of emails will be going out over the next week as I'm trying to pull together people and stuff to that. May I move on? Thank you. So here's the next generation of electric vehicles. So I showed you the big bus and the American and Ballard. That's been going around. We've been working on those kind of electric buses for nearly a decade. This is the generation we've been waiting for. The reality on the right is almost identical to the van that we just got. I know I was looking at it and saying, isn't that our van? No, that's not our van. It's a different photo. But it's the same generation. It's called the E-Transit provided by Ford. And these are coming online this year. In fact, in discussion with Ford, there's talk about within 2 years, this will be the only vehicle they're going to make. They won't make any more gasoline or diesel. It'll only be electric. This would help us with the van pools. It could help us down the road if we do paratransit. There'll be a lift on there. There is a design for that. The one on the left is identical to our current mid-sized buses that we're getting from Aerotech and some other ones we're going to order from Diamond. And that bus is a wheelchair lift in the back. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the ramp, but there's another one that has a ramp in the middle, a different type of vehicle. But those vehicles are coming online now. They passed Altoona testing in Pennsylvania this past year, so they're now certified by the federal government to be sold by various manufacturers. Their costs, they're smaller, but their cost is much lower. I've been told we're looking at somewhere between $200,000 and $240,000. That's a lot less than the $800,000 Gillick bus. So if we get grant money for that, but this would be the vehicles that will replace our buses that we now have in Anthony, and we run service into Cruces all the way up into Hatch and to Chaparral. So these are the vehicles that are coming online now. It will be certainly available over the next 2 years, and they'll be part of our agency rollout.
What's the life expectancy of this versus the
gas? That's a good question. I don't have an answer for that. I can tell you what it's supposed to be. So it's a question right now, is it 7 years or 10 years? And that makes a big difference because we'll have to price that out as to which way that would go. But You know, I like 7 years because I just think a 10-year vehicle, there's just too many issues that happen. If you're not going to repower the vehicle, it's harder to go. That's why we're struggling with the buses we have now. They're 7 years old. And then 7 years doesn't mean anything. It really comes down to miles. So typically it's 35 to 40,000 miles a year. When you start hitting 300,000 miles, which some of our buses will approach this year, after less than 7 years, that's a 10-year bus. So, you know, 7 and 10 doesn't matter as much as the miles. So if I had my maintenance guy up here now, he'd tell you, don't talk about years, tell about miles, you know. But the point is, I think this is reason to be optimistic. So the cost, although still sounds high, is much cheaper. And then right now, we're already seeing their diesel electric equivalents at 155. So if the bus on the left is even $250,000, that's significantly more, but it's not significantly more given the ramp up that we're seeing. So hopefully we can get that with a state contract for 225. If it gives us an electric vehicle that is manageable, can meet our requirements, you know, that's a step in the right direction as far as electric. And if the federal government gives us more money for it, then, you know.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you again, Mr. Armijo. So do you have the infrastructure to charge the buses, you know, to recharge them, and mechanics that can work on this and all that sort of stuff?
That's a very good question. The answer is no, but we will have it. So 2 parts to that. The first part is the commitment of the team. So Gillig has committed to providing us with the training. They've committed to providing us with the supplemental manufacturers that will maintain or make the equipment that we need. And so all that's in their package. So they'll provide that.
Charging stations?
The whole thing. And I'm going to show you those numbers in a minute. So I've actually programmed it out.
Okay.
So let me go to that. That's the next grant. So this is a strange grant. So 5339 Bus and Facilities does a little bit more than the other grant. The other grant's just on vehicles and the power systems that go with it. This is a little broader. In this grant, we have the opportunity to apply for the same things. The federal government, if they like us and they want to award us, would decide which of the 2 grants we're going to get the money from. We could even get money from both grants. It really depends on how the applications go in. So we have a chance to get more. We will certainly, you can see here, you can see a zero emission bus in the background, but you can see the charging equipment right in the front. And here's your numbers. So in the preliminary numbers, we have a commitment from Gillig for the 3 buses at $833,300. Now, the hybrids we bought back in 2020, 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, really it's 2019 in the summer when we got the grant. Those are about, it was 1.2, 1.3 million for the 2 buses. So about 620,000 piece, maybe something like that. So this is more, but it's 100% electric. And I know at the time we went through the El Paso MPO, there was a lot of discussion and some formal means, could we do electric, could we do electric? And quite frankly, we could not at that time. But this grant allows us to do the following. So I have the money in there for the bus. I actually have it broken out to what it costs to deliver the bus. I have the training programmed by Gillig. And this is a training that will be over a period of time to the point where the operators and mechanics will all get trained, and there'll be a train the trainer, and then they'll continue during some of the warranty of the bus to continue to provide training. So if the warranty is going to be, I think it's 3 and 5 years, that training will continue. So even if they go beyond the 50,000, they'll pick up that cost. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you again, Mr. Armijo. So the federal government is really, there's money out there that the feds are willing to give out. And how long do you think Santa Claus will be around?
At least 2 more years.
So it means in order to make sure that nothing changes, it seems like you're moving quickly on this.
I'm moving quickly because I'm not getting any younger. No, my sense is I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a lot of grants in a lot of places. My interpretation of this, having been down this road before, this is not new, that's a different administration, it's a different time, but we've had money before. So what I think is going to happen is, and thank God to Congress, because Congress forced the deadline of August. They can't change that. They can't delay it. They have to honor that. Unless they all go back, sign an agreement between the two parties and get the president to sign it, they cannot change that agreement. So that works for us. And what I believe is very few people can get that zero emission plan with the 7 task orders I just showed you done by May 31st. I've already talked to other agencies in the state that said, we're not going to do it. I was prepared not to do it. And then it came over me that, well, if I don't, we lose this opportunity. Even if for any reason we don't get there, we will have something in place. We'll find out what we did wrong. We can amend it and get funded next year. So I'd rather take our shot, go in the group, and then work with the state through, coupling 2 or 3 of these grants together, SCRTD and another agency, and see how we do. So, I mean, we can do it on our own, but I'm leaning back. I was looking to go by ourselves, and I'm leaning back to go with the state. Somehow I'm getting a sense that this is a team effort. Maybe we should, work with that. So to finish that off, so you get the total, you see the federal and the local. I don't know, I'm still assuming this is 80-20. I have to go back and look at the grant numbers. I've been looking at so much stuff because some of these things, I mean, the award could go higher. So in other words, they could award 85-90% of this, which would lower our numbers for that. So we just did get a commitment from the legislature for $200,000 locally. I'm going to ask the county in next year's grant for $100,000. Since the buses won't come in for almost 2 years, we don't have to have all the money in the first day. But we could show commitments for half of it and then see if we can get some more support from the legislature. I have a feeling the legislature, if they know we got the grant, would probably be much more supportive of giving us some money next year because they could be a part of something that's, I think, bigger than all of us, quite frankly.
Mr. Armijo?
Yes.
And I mean, we're talking about $3 million here. Have you thought scaling it back to only 2 buses?
Yes. And in fact, I have. And in fact, they may only award us 2. So we're kind of in a situation where we can ask for more. Doesn't necessarily mean we won't get it. But it also means that they might say, you know what, we looked at your numbers and you're right. But tell you what, we'll give you 2. So I was at 4. I scaled it back to 3. So I'm thinking the same way you are. But then I thought, well, 3 is still good. The other reason is if you're going to do 3, you need to do 2 for service and 1 for spare. So to do 2 would be problematic. So 3 works, 4 would be nice, but I think 3 works a little.
And my thought was, trying to come up with $608,000. It's not guaranteed. And so that was my concern is that it sounds from what you just mentioned that at least we have half.
Yeah.
And from 200,000 that you already have, and then the 100,000 you're going to be asking the county. And I mean, that is almost workable. And so, and that was my concern, and that was for my question.
And literally, if the buses don't come in until the summer of 2024, we would really have the next 2 legislative sessions and certainly the county contract. So, and our own membership fee. So I think we could come up with the other half over the next 2 years. But to go much higher than that would be a stretch.
Absolutely. And my concern also, I know that legislators are always looking to see if you've spent the money that they've already allotted you before they commit for the prior year. And so that's a concern also. Just, I know how legislators work. And if they see that that money's still on hold, even though we know hopefully it's going to be committed to something, they're less likely to fund the projects. So
that's a very good question, and I think that'll be part of the dialogue we'll have to have with them. Because I think at this point in time, we get 2 years, so we'll really have to work with them on that. So you're right, probably after next year we need to do it. There's a number of ways that we can make that work through the consortium of other systems or working with the state where maybe the money gets drawn down or put on hold. DFA can actually put the money in the Department of Transportation budget. So that might be a discussion we have with them. Okay. And that would address exactly what you just said.
We asked to reauthorize the funds.
Correct.
Is what they do.
Correct.
But since you have the money already, those were my thoughts. So thank you.
Thank you. No, that's a very good idea. Thank you. I think I'm almost done with this. So the last one I've been bringing many, many times. The map on the right was produced by the MPO here in Mesilla. They did a good job. And what you want to look on first on that map is the outer edges of blue is the area that's the urbanized area of southern Doña Ana County. Includes the unincorporated areas as well, which is Chaparral to the east over there. And you can actually see part of that's Otero County. And then you can see the little highlights of little buses. You can see it right there in Anthony where we have the our little headquarters and facility there. And so you can see the red route goes to the north. You can see the green or turquoise to the east coming through, and then the purple coming all the way down south to Sunland Park. And then you get down there, you can see, it's kind of a little harder to see it from there, but you can see the west side where we run service on the silver route, and then the yellow goes all the way to downtown El Paso. And the legend has everything on the right. So from that standpoint, we've been working on getting our funding for 2022, which is $696,000, and this is federal funds through Sun Metro. So Sun Metro finally authorized a split letter agreement in February for $204,000. The Congress finally took action tying to the war in Ukraine, and they pushed the money out. So the U.S. Department of Transportation about 2 weeks ago released the funding table. So the table moved from $204,000 to $696,000 that's available this year. The good news to us is that this creates us in a dynamic that we're now direct grant recipients who will be applying for the money directly from the regional office in Fort Worth, the Federal Transit Administration. And those funds actually are in the year of service plus 5 years. So we've got a good period of time to draw those down. Our hope is to draw down a portion of the $204,000 this year and then save the rest of the money probably for capital funds going forward. And that can make up any of the shortfalls for capital. It's a little more difficult to use this for operations, and then the service area in my last bullet point is restricted to that area.
Mr. Armijo, Mr. Chair. And so basically all the $3 million is going to be focused and restricted to the El Paso MPO service area and not necessarily the SCRTD area?
Initially, excuse me, thank you, Mayor. Initially, yes, and because in order for the vehicles to have the service life that they're going to have, it works better, as I discussed, Sunland Park. As we look at the rollout plan, the next phase will be out of Anthony, and that'll cover the service on the red route going up and so on. So it's really a phasing of the rollout and the facility, because even the facility in Anthony will have to be modified somewhat to have the stations placed where we can charge the buses.
Okay. Thank you for that. I guess, as you all are aware, I mean, we keep servicing the southern part of the county. Mm-hmm. We're not focusing on the northern part, nor going into Sierra County, which we've committed to do. And so, when are we going to get service out there in the Sierra County area?
Well, we've requested grant funds, and we'll see if we get that grant award this June. And if enough money comes through under the 5311 urban rural funds, then we would be able to provide more services to the north. That's where we would go. Right now, this funding source helps the south, and the grant application helps the south. I mean, it's just the way the numbers fall. And it's also where we have our strongest ridership.
And I understand that, and I know the ridership is between Sunland Park and El Paso. And it seems like we're focusing everything over there and nothing north of that. And that's a concern of mine because we're all players in this organization, and we need to service all members as much as possible. I understand the need in Sunland Park, but I also understand the need, you know, in the rural Doña Ana County area and also in Sierra County. So,
I just want to add,
worth.
I just want to be clear, you know, I know I'm the chairman, and it not just the funding or the focus is not in Sunland Park because I'm the chairman or anything like that. It's because of funding. Just want to clarify that. Yeah. But the funding is available for that area specifically, not necessarily outside of that. Now, one thing that I think we can benefit is that once we get to keep the assets within the SCRTD, and that can be further transferred out further down the line. but the money has to be spent within that service area. That includes, it's part of the El Paso MPO.
Right.
And thank you, Mr. Chair, for that. And truly, I understand that. But then I also know that there's other members, that have that need in their communities that we need to focus on. We need to push for that, and I think I advocate for that. So, thank you.
Will do. Thank you.
Madam Councilor.
Mr. Enrico, but when you show the success we've had in the yellow line or the need, does that help when you're applying or looking for more funds? It helps to show that you've been successful and maybe.
I can tell you right now, we're the only agency in this region in the state of New Mexico that has ridership that's doubled and continues to grow. I anticipate, right now, we're growing at more than 10% for the year. If we continue down the road that we're going, I think within 2 years, we'll be well over 100,000 rides. I also believe that we're going to need to start putting out some paratransit services. The state of New Mexico wants to evaluate us on that. The city of El Paso, Sun Metro would like us to do that. They want us to match their revenues and fares. So we have lots of discussion items to go as we move forward. We did launch a little route called the Copper Line this past year. It's got a lot of support. Ridership is struggling a little bit. It's still doing a little bit better. I think the location of the new stops is going to help that quite a bit. I just opened the door with the new van pool program. So we got our first van last month, and so we're going to try to put that in service soon. I'm going to be down in Santa Teresa tomorrow dealing with the folks out there. The initial pilot is to go from Las Cruces to Santa Teresa, at least that's the plan. I've ordered 2 more vans for next year's grant, and if we get those, I'm planning to begin servicing the area up in Sierra County. So that's going to be my first breakthrough. But if we get enough grant money to actually run a bus service out there, yeah, we'll do that as well. So I'm trying to do a little bit of everything going through that. I hope to place ads in the Observer. Is that our weekly paper? Starting in the next couple of weeks. We'll do that for about a month. Is it the Observer, our weekly paper? Yeah, I wanted to do them for about a month. I want to see how that works because I want to. No. It's our week. It's Las Cruces. So I've been trying to get Las Cruces. The Observer hasn't run a lot of our stories because they see us as a county-based agency. County does include Las Cruces. I'm not sure I understand that dynamic, but God love them. So I thought if we do a little advertising and then we do a little bit electronically, then we'll see where that goes. And then that would be moved to running some ads up. There's a local paper in Sierra County. I've talked to the editor folks there. So we run some stuff up there. So I'm trying to get some energy going before the summer. Not the best time to launch a program, but try to get some people going. And then we'll start doing some things on the campus of Santa Teresa Industrial Park. But I do know, in working with the local van pool program in the past, it's been hard to get this to work from Las Cruces there. I think there's a market going north from Sierra County. Coming this way and running a van pool that would be direct to the schools, universities, and to even the hospitals, and having multiple trips. So have to work with that to see what we can do. It's difficult because sometimes you have to have a disabled accessible van, regular van. The cost for that goes up quite a bit. So but I think if we can be patient through the next year, I think we can get some things happening.
Talking about adding service to the northern part, is there fun? Is TRC and the communities there part of the South Central Regional RTPO?
Yes.
Is there funding?
Not just there. They go all the way. The RPO includes Socorro.
Right. Is
They're
there
the
funding
heart
there that we can tap into that will help service that area and make that bridge rather than depending on Doña Ana County and Las Cruces?
Well, I worked this last, and I have to find out how we did. I was working with the city of Elephant Butte and TRC on a grant application with their state rep. I don't remember her name, I'm sorry. So I helped them design some kind of a plan because they like to run service in the summer from the lake. But we were looking at something a little more dynamic than that. And so I did help them with some information on which vehicles and things they could use for that. And I did try to bring them into the fold, like, we would do well if we could do this a little more together, but, so we start where we can with something like that. And that's why I think, even though I'm talking about the observer ads, those same ads, we're going to use those again up in the north. I think trying to get people talking about services, whether it be on a bus or a van, even a carpool, would be helpful.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Armijo?
Go ahead.
And I know Angela from the COG is, part of her salary is through that RPO in the northern part. And I know that Senator Crystal Diamond, I mean, she's even part of our senator, part of Mesilla senator. We have 2 senators in the town of Mesilla, but with a new redistricting, I'm not sure how that's going to work. But I think if we collaborate with the representative, with the senators, with the RPO, I think that was a great suggestion, Mr. Chair, trying to see how we can generate, or they can bring some funding into the RTD to help them provide that type, that service, even if it's for one bus at this time, to get, because I know they're struggling with physicians, with doctors, and so they're having to come into Las Cruces. And so as a population is majority, I think, senior citizens, I think we could really help them out by providing that service. It's just them getting accustomed to know that there is a bus that's going to be running regularly between there and Doña County or Las Cruces, so that they can get those services.
Yeah, that
So,
sounds
and
good.
I know that's a big need.
I'll reach out to Angela.
Yes, please
call.
do. And when I see her, I also will visit with her on that. And
Thank
I
you.
don't know if you get to see him often.
I haven't seen him in a while.
You either? Yeah, neither have I. So, okay, thank you.
Councilor Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Armijo, so in terms of expansion, the airport is going to be, the Las Cruces Airport will be having intrastate travel, I think by the end of the year or sooner. And we just got 3.3 million.
Wow.
They didn't allocate it the first time around, but I guess they went back to the drawing board when they had the special session. And that'll be spread out over a period of 3 years. But there's a big focus on definitely getting interstate travel.
Right.
So that people here. So apropos of that, it'd be wonderful to have bus service out to the airport. Is there anything that, and it would also draw in, Luna County, it's really, but we really need a bus system. That's what I love about SCRTD. I think it really connects our people, our community. And if we could get bus service.
Councilor Flores, I have had a couple of conversations with the Roadrunner staff, and I know that they're going through their process of ideas and trying to get more details. Some of that discussions include discussion they've had recently on using some kind of a mobility type of a service, which could be a contracted service, or they're themselves using smaller vehicles to go up there and do an on-demand or some other type of form. I think that's the direction they want to go. It's one of those things, it's a chicken and egg, which one do you start with first? We've told them that we're willing to cooperate with them in some way or another.
Is that part of the MPO discussions, or are those discussions?
This was individual
with
discussions with the staff, so no.
Bartholomew?
Yeah, it was Richard, his staff, Michael. So, yeah, I think the MPO is a perfect place to have that conversation.
Yeah, yeah, to really expand. I think, and if we get electric buses, it'll be wonderful just to jump on a bus and, not have to worry about parking.
The little electric van, that's the one.
Oh, yeah, that would work.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Because that's a sure hop from there to downtown.
Thank you, Mr.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, and in addition to Councilor Flores, is that I know they're promoting more businesses to come to the West Mesa more manufacturing, and as that continues to grow, we definitely need to consider. Yeah.
Yeah, we have like the cheese factory there, Saputo. Not the cheese factory, but the cheese, whatever, they make cheese. It's actually based in Montreal. Isn't that interesting? And they have that funny name. But anyway, yeah, they're expanding there, or they're in the process or already. And there's a few other companies coming in, big.
Yeah.
So, and then because of our population, a lot of people who will be hired or have been, hired, don't have transportation. And that's something, we've had conversations with Bartholomew in the city.
What we have to be careful of doing, if I may add, is that I know up in Los Lunas, outside of Albuquerque, why Facebook would locate there, I don't know.
Was it Los Lunas that got Amazon? I thought it was Las Vegas.
They've got a Facebook. They've been there for a
Los
few
Lunas?
years. Los Lunas.
God, that's even smaller than
And they
Las
got there, and it's a big plant, a lot of people, and there was no bus service. So
You see?
bus service had to be added
Mira.
afterwards.
Hay que pensarla bien.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we've got all this hard workers going to get there,
So-
hitchhike.
So my nighttime job, I do help others. So I did have some feedback into that routing. So it's worked out very well.
Yeah, but, yeah. I'd really like to, know how they got that,
Yep. Well, yeah.
but, oh, well.
I bet you it had something to do with communities that are disadvantaged. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. All right. Item number 8, discussion and approval of resolution for budget adjustment for FY 2021, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, board members. I'm Adam Shea, of course, the finance officer for the district. And it is that time of the year again for our third quarter financials to come for board approval. The first step that I would like to take in that is amendment number 3, which is included in your board packet.
And it has a cover page.
Yeah, it should be the very first one. And it says on it, amendment number 3.
It should be after
Okay,
the
Christine is helping
resolutions.
out.
After the resolution? So after the resolutions, there's the packet starts there.
Oh, mira.
After the resolutions, yeah. That's the director's report, just do one more. Another. Finish the report. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, quite all right. I just want to make sure
It is
everybody's on
hard
the
to-
same page. As you can see with amendment number 3, it's the column that is headlined amendment number 3. You see the first 2 amendments under the expenditures.
Still have a quorum.
It'll be second page of that packet.
Oh, that one. Oh. It looked like the other kids. I'm sorry.
No, that's quite all right. This here is the most up-to-date one. From the one that was actually sent to you, it was off by $500, and it's just a calculation error on the formulas. In reality, we're just asking to move funds around primarily to meet how the expenditures fell for quarter number 3. For instance, we're asking to move 50,000 from the employer benefits, and it is sporadically placed in other accounts. Again, this is to accommodate the year-to-date percentage because of course, at quarter three, we should be meeting at least 75% of our expenses. We're asking an increase, again, from that 50,000. We're moving it over to travel and maintenance because of the maintenance costs going up and so forth. Again, it is to meet the quarter three financials. And we're asking for approval of this particular amendment, which would add $30,500 bottom line to the expenditures. That is specifically for commercial loan. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Okay, of course, me questioning the budget. So we're saying, like, under workman's comp insurance, we have budgeted 37,000, and you're removing everything and leaving only 15,000 in there. Is that going to cover the workman's comp insurance for the year? I mean, I see that we haven't paid all of $3,000 in there.
No, we paid the
Year-to-date
$15,099.
I'm sorry?
We paid the $15,099. If you look under the revised budget, that is the total amount for that line item. We went from 37,000, and in Amendment 2, we reduced it by 21,901 to come up with 15,099. Primarily for that particular line item, the reason that we did that is because when we initially found out from our insurance company for that line item for workers' comp, they told us, the way that they told us that we believed it was going to be $37,000 for the year. That's why we allocated that much to that particular line item. Come to find out that when we did pay the first half, which we thought it was, turns out it was the whole year's worth, the $15,000.
And how much was that?
$15,099.
99?
Yes, ma'am.
And we're sure that's,
I verified that.
I mean,
Believe me,
that's
I was
crazy, yeah.
I was just as shocked. But they did confirm, as far as the insurance, that basically we had doubled it in our original allocation.
and that's just my concern, is like with the health insurance of the life, the unemployment tax, even the retirement, that what we've taken out for budget adjustments, basically what we've taken out 50, 60, 70, about $75,000 from benefits. And we're sure we're going to be okay to cover all our benefits with what you have remaining.
Yes, ma'am. And if you look under the column, the percent year-to-date, that is, as of March 31st, the expenditures that have hit that account. And we're looking at it, for instance, should be 75% of the entire annual.
Right.
For health and health insurance and life, we've only met 71%. That's why we're confident about moving those funds to a different account.
Okay. And I understand about the fuel, just because I know how expensive fuel is right now.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And that, definitely makes sense. But I just want to make sure that, and then in capital outlay, that, I mean, we started with nothing in there, we added, and now we're taking out?
We're able to reduce it based on a restructuring as of the end of the third quarter. It is possible that we're going to ask that some amounts be moved back in there at the end of the fourth quarter, but as of the end of the third quarter, we're able to use those funds in a different account.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Ms. Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Shea. So what happens, how do we use, you said move it to other funds, but what other funds, where does that money set? Like the 10,000, no, pardon, the workers' comp, let me just stay with workers' comp. Okay, workers' comp, So it was only $15,099, so we have a surplus of the original allocation
Yes, ma'am.
of almost $22,000.
Yes.
So what happens to that money and then we can see all the adjustments made down the list here, the row. Where does that money sit and what?
It was just moved into another account that we had originally allocated under what actual expenses came out to
Do
be.
you, but this doesn't show where I understand what you're saying, that it goes to an underfunded account or
Another
line item.
specific account, you mean?
Yeah, for example, retirement, just because my eyes fell on that, was underfunded by 21, the same amount. I mean, that would probably never happen. But would the adjustment in the retirement line indicate that those $21,000, almost $22,000 came from the the overage in workers' comp allocation?
There's no specific
just-
account that it is associated to. We're looking at
Oh, just
basically the
a-
budget as a total.
So
Okay, if you
is
look
it
at
a
the bottom
general
line,
fund?
I'm
Is it
sorry,
a general fund it goes into, Mr. Shea?
it's all a general fund. These accounts are all general fund with the exception of the capital outlay. That is specific to capital. But we have to show it on our financials in that respect.
Okay, so,
When moving funds from one account to another, it's within the same fund, the general
oh,
fund.
I see, general fund. So does that mean that at the bottom of the total expenses where it says Amendment 3, okay, so $30,500, and then the other line is that's revised budget. So is the $30,000 the amounts that were over budgeted?
No, basically what it is that's the end balance of the entire amendment of moving funds around between accounts. The reason that it is $30,500, it is specific to the commercial loan. If you look at, for instance, amendment number 1, and you go all the way down to the bottom, you'll notice it's 0. And the reason is because the amounts were moved from one account to another within that entire general fund to amount to 0. One account was reduced, another account was increased, all the way down to the bottom. And the result was 0 to the fund.
So if some of that surplus or that over allocation in, say, the workers' comp amendment 1 or whatever, it would never show that that surplus went to drug and alcohol testing or whatever.
It
would never
wasn't
show.
specific, no.
Because it's
Because it's
general
within
fund.
exactly, it's within the entire fund.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Shea.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I have one more question,
Yes, Ms. Prado.
Mr. Chair. On the commercial loan payment, what was that loan for?
That was specific to the purchase of the vans that we just recently acquired for the van pool program, as well as the non-revenue van that we purchased. Unfortunately, it was at a time, a critical time. We worked for weeks to try to find a van to be able to purchase. Once we were able to find it, it turned out that it was in California. We were able to secure it and get it transferred down here. But we didn't have enough in the reserve to actually accommodate the payment of the van. Because again, we're getting paid from DFA after the fact. So we had to come up with an amount that we were able to pay right away.
Okay, and that van, had it been budgeted before?
Oh, it was part of the budget, yes.
It was part of the budget. Okay, thank you. And have we collected enough money? Have we
Actually-
received the money from DFA to pay off?
That's a very good question, and actually, there's a receivable. We should get it on May 1st.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yes. So in the end, as far as expenses are concerned, it becomes a net amount of $30,500, which is just the commercial loan. Again, we're moving funds from one account to another. On the second page of that presentation is specific to amendment number 3 for the revenue. These items are under column amendment number 3, and they amount to, number 1, Don Ana County, for instance. It's an increase of the amount that we had originally budgeted for the year by $95,000 to a total of $723,000. That is for both. That is for both what we billed them for the fare box, because again, we're not collecting any fares through the end of the fiscal year. So Don Ana County is paying us for that. Now, that is why you see a reduction as far as the bus fares and ticket sales from the budget. We have received $23,000 just through the fare box for this fiscal year alone. That difference of $20,700.66 is removing that from the overall budget for the year.
When we're talking about year, we're talking about the fiscal year?
Fiscal year, yes,
Okay.
sir. The other amounts under the grants and MOU section have to do with the amounts that we're receiving from the New Mexico DOT. This is an increase in these funds, and they finally got encumbered to our account, making it available for us to pull for the rest of the fiscal year. Then there's also the Texas DOT, the 5307 funds. That increase of $174,685 is to accommodate the total amount that we are receiving in the split letter of $204,006. I also added in, which was not added in before, for the El Calvario United Methodist Church, that was for the migrant transit that we had accommodated for. We did not have that in the original budget, so I added it in under this particular amendment, as the amendment has to go to the DFA. So once I make the third quarter, everything balances out. I hope that makes sense. The DMV funds, also, you see there the commercial loan of $30,500. That is to accommodate the increase in the expense of $30,500, netting zero. So that is the amendments that I'm requesting approval and resolution on. Are there any questions regarding the amendment number 3?
Any questions?
No. Mr. Chair, do we need a motion for approval of this resolution?
Correct. And this is just for the budget adjustment for FY 2021 to 2022.
Mr. Chair, I make that motion.
I have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Barraza. Is there a second?
Second by Flores.
Motion has been seconded by Councilor Flores. Further discussion by the board? Seeing and hearing none, let me have a roll call vote on the matter, please.
Javier Perea,
Yes.
Nora Barraza,
Yes.
Yvonne Flores,
Yes.
Kathy Harmon,
Yes.
Diana Trujillo.
Yes.
Just for the record, Lynn Ellens has left.
Oh, he left.
I didn't notice that either.
I didn't even notice. I didn't notice. You were- I was just into the presentation so much that I didn't notice.
I'll take that as a compliment, as my presentation being riveting. Okay.
There you go. Item number 9, discussion and approval of resolution for third quarter financial report or finance report. Madam Mayor?
Mr. Chair, I make that motion. We approve resolution number FY 22-18. Is that right?
Second.
Hold on. No. We did the resolution already for the budget adjustment.
Okay, then it's 19.
It's item 9,
Yes.
item number 9.
Okay, so I do make a motion to approve resolution FY 22-19.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Barraza. Is there a second?
Second by
Second.
Flores.
Motion has been made by Councilor Flores. Sorry, Mayor, they still beat you to that one. Do you want to give do we need a briefing on that?
I think Mr. Shea has reviewed that, unless there's additional information.
There is not, unless you have questions of that.
I do not.
I do not.
All right. Hearing no discussion by the board, I have a motion on the floor. It has been seconded. Let me have a roll call vote on the matter, please.
Javier Perea,
Yes?
Nora Barraza,
Yes.
Yvonne Flores,
Yes.
Kathy Harmon,
Yes.
Diana Trujillo. Diana Trujillo,
She goes by Murillo now.
Murillo. My apologies.
Yes.
Thank you. Apologies.
I have a motion. The motion carries unanimously. Item number 9 has been approved. Item number 10, discussion and approval of resolution for annual membership fee structure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is the third of my presentations. It has to do with the membership fees for the fiscal year 2023. We had discussed this a couple of months back, and we went back to the drawing board and took a closer look at it. Okay, if you'll notice in the packets, what we did is we came down to a flat 25% increase. However, with the exception of City of Elephant Butte and the town of Williamsburg, remain the same for the next fiscal year. Now, for the 2010, just to give you an overall look at it, for 2010, when we came up with the fee structure for what the current fees are, okay, it amounted to 51.6 cents per population. The increase that we're asking for brings it up to 61.4 cents per population. Again, what we're asking for is an increase in the fees for the first 6 members, and then for the last 2 members to remain the same going forward. And again, that is based on the 2020 census data.
Counselor, well, let me get a motion on that. I just want to entertain a motion to approve item number 10.
Chair, Mayor Barraza, I make a motion, we approve resolution number FY 2220.
It's you're looking at the resolution. I'm reading at the agenda item. 2220, yeah, all right. I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion has been seconded. Counselor Flores?
So what are we looking at exactly, Mr. Chair, on this one? I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. There is a column that is headed 2022-2023. Those are the fees that we are requesting to bill to those agencies. Oh, I'm sorry, you're on the wrong page.
I was in the wrong
I'm
section.
sorry.
There it is.
I did not mean to confuse you.
No, I was born confused. I was actually feet first. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know how I was born. Okay, so, yeah, I think the concern we had when this came up last time was that it seemed like some cities or towns or villages were not, it was askew or something. So are these adjustments?
Well, the skew that you were talking about, which makes complete sense, is the service to the northern municipalities. For
Right.
instance, Williamsburg and Elephant Butte. Their amounts currently are so small they do not make a huge impact. But if you also look at the population figures over towards the left there, you're going to see the differences between the 2010 census and the 2020 census and what that difference is. There is, for instance, for Ana County, indicating a reduction of 5,620 residents. I do not know if not everybody put through, because everybody else increased, with the exception, of course, of Anthony, for instance. It dropped 667 households, which is a surprise, but we're looking at these figures based on what the census data tells us, ironically.
So, Mr. Shea, this is it's not entirely on point, but it does. Doña Ana County in 2010, the population was 82,849, or that's the number for which it's a percentage?
No, that is the actual household number based on the census.
Oh, household. And then, but it's under the column of population. Now, the city of Las Cruces,
Am I wrong in that as far as the census data?
You're not on the microphone.
It looked green to me. Okay, now it's a little greener. Thank you, David Armijo. We're trying not to double count.
right,
So we take the population and then we reduce the population from each of the member cities that are in the county so that we're not getting the county and getting them. So, because they're in that thing. That's why the county numbers look as low as they are. Otherwise, it wouldn't
makes
be
sense.
as low. There were some drops, but very small amounts. So with the ones that would have gone up, like Sunland Park, you'll get some offsets there. I think the unincorporated areas just didn't see the growth as much as the municipality of Las Cruces, which really saw a much more dynamic growth pattern. And that's a discussion for the MPO to maybe give more details.
yeah, it'd be great if we could get that, and I'll tell you why I'm asking, because when you add up Doña Ana County, so these are households, not the population, each person?
It's
Because
based on
it
the
does say
CPI index.
population, not households.
It's population.
And it is population. That was
Okay,
my mistake.
so when you add up Doña Ana County with the city of Las Cruces, oh, I see. There's other, I'm sorry. Okay, I just explained it to myself. You don't need to hear how I got there.
Well, as long as you did, okay.
Too embarrassing. No, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I just added up the other cities that are in Doña Ana.
And Mr. Shea and Mr. Chair, I mean, 2196 for the town of Mesilla. I still feel that number is our 2010, because that's the number I've used prior to census. And I wish I knew where that number 1772 came from. I don't understand.
Though that was on the table that I received the CPI index from when it was originally calculated.
That is wild.
That
Yeah,
was
because
the
even prior to census, I've been using 2196. So, yeah.
I couldn't tell
That
you
is so
why.
crazy. Okay. I mean, I know $281 is not going to break us, so I don't have a problem with it. And I just, not that we collect that much from membership fees, but definitely you would like to see service to Sierra County.
Yes, ma'am. And again, the reason that we are asking for the increase is that it hasn't been done in a while, number one. Number two, as everybody knows, inflation has gone up, which our costs have gone up, and our ability to meet our local match has gone up as well.
Understood. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Are there any other questions regarding the membership dues? Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chair, do we have a motion on the floor?
Yes, I
Okay.
called for the motion earlier. Any other discussion? Okay. Let me have a roll call vote on the matter, please.
Javier Perea,
Yes.
Nora Barraza,
Yes.
Yvonne Flores,
Yes,
Kathy Harmon,
Yes.
Diana Monrijo.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, that's everybody. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 10 has been approved. Item 11, discussion and public comment of 3-year transit development plan.
Yes, thank you, David Armijo, Executive Director. If you can turn to your booklet and go to the very last page, Appendix D, there's a timetable. It's from the Sun Metro Service Expansion Policy. So it's weird that we start a report with the last page, but I think this is where I want to start. Everybody have a chance to find that page? All right, so I sent you this page because in the discussions we've had for the last, well, for a period of time with the city of El Paso Sun Metro Transit, and the El Paso MPO, they felt that if the funds from the regional area, the urban funds, Section 5307, were going to be expended to New Mexico, then we would need to meet certain requirements from them. Now, the money is listed under the table as New Mexico, so the Congress has identified it as a separate funding level, the United States Department of Transportation. I can send you those tables. But whatever, they've decided they want to be able to have a word into what we do. And so if you flip over to the page behind it, and this is the map I showed you earlier today with the outs colors of the area. So what the city of El Paso, which is actually, it's a fairly large area for El Paso, even goes well beyond the municipality of El Paso. In fact, includes El Paso County. So El Paso County is going to get funding as well in the next go-round, 2023 or 2024. So we're first. So going back to page 45, these policy items are now directed to us. Because of this decision process was so late in the process, they've identified a schedule that will be waived this year for 2022 money and for our application for 2023 money. So when I laid out the money earlier today and I showed you we get $696,000 of federal funding, not encumbered, federal funds, which means if you have to add the local match to that. So it's actually over $800,000 we're really talking about if we have funding available. So that 696 is available through September 30th of this year, carries over for 5 more years. Beginning October 1st, depending on when Congress decides to pass next year's budget, we get another $696,000. So as we sit here, I can lay out a plan for $1.4 million that comes and is limited to that service area. So what they want us to do then is every fiscal year ask for money in the following year and provide them with a 3-year plan. So each year we'd update it, and the time period would be between September 1 and March 30th. That 30th day has already passed, but that timeline's been waived. So next year we'll have to do another 3-year plan. So what I'm laying out in these 45 pages, 46 pages, is what would the money go for? And I'll take you through that in just a moment. So as we look at it, the second line talks about the time span, 3 years. Third one talks about 12-month funding period. The fourth line basically says, has to be adopted by resolution with this government body. I was going to have something on that today. I think I'm bringing that back because you all have already approved the 204,000. We haven't gotten the updated side letter, which I expect to get any day now. So at next month's board meeting, we get to do this all over again. So after a while, this will all be well known. So then we get to the agreement. So within the executed agreement, going down to the fifth line, the director of Sun Metro will issue correspondence. Bottom line is you get down to the split letter. This all goes back to us working together. And now I move forward to the draft plan. Page 1, page 2, page 3. Page 3 shows, again, the service area. Page 2 is the table of contents. Essentially, what we've had to do in these 46 pages, and I got help from Kurt Scott with SBLB. You might remember SBLB 2 years ago did our 10-year plan. So what we basically did is we grabbed a lot of the data we used 2 years ago and put it in this plan. I wrote probably 20 pages of this document in 12 days with Kurt's help. All this so we can get $696,000. However, this plan will go to the MPO for review. It'll go back to Sun Metro. This is still a good plan to have because I think in this 3-year plan, unlike the 10-year plan, is it's much more precise to what we're doing. And it identifies things in the plan like fare policy, someday having paratransit, the kind of buses we have and so on. So it gives a little more context to what we're doing. If I had the time, I would do one for the North. Because I think in the conversation we had earlier today on Sierra County and some of the other ones, it might be good to have a secondary plan. I have been discussing this with the staff, especially in our operations and maintenance for quite some time, that at some point we have operations in Las Cruces, we have operations in Anthony Chaparral, we have operations in Sunland Park, El Paso. So just by logistics, we are actually sometimes 2 agencies, sometimes 3 agencies, depending on how you want to look at it. And as we go further north into Sierra County, it becomes much more that there has to be the resources to support that. I've always anticipated that Hatch would be the next big port that we go north of, and we work with Sierra County to Hatch, and vice versa, Hatch to Cruces and so on. All those are discussions for another day. But for now, this plan is, I'm just bringing it for discussion. There's no approval. The plan still has to go through the process of review from the El Paso MPO, which I'm going to release after today, and the folks in El Paso. And I'm pretty confident that they're going to like the plan. I'm sure there'll be some things that I didn't do, but I also asked them to give us some help on this. So I don't think this should be done in a vacuum. Now, I am doing public participation. I've asked for a meeting in Anthony. I think we're doing that in May. I just did a meeting earlier. Was it this week earlier? I think I was in Sunland Park. And we'll probably have a bigger public meeting at our next meeting, and I'll put some stuff on the buses about the plan. So I think it's good to get public participation on this, especially now that we're a little bit late in the process of COVID. We can actually get people on the bus and talking to one another. That's really what I wanted to bring you today. Again, this is kind of an organic item. It's still moving through the process. I'll have something much more defined by next month. But I felt pretty good about this, that we were able to get this done fairly quickly and leverage our existing resources. Any questions?
Questions by the board? All right. Item 12, discussion approval of resolution for NMDOT $20,000 zero emission grant. Madam Mayor?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion for approval of resolution FY 22-21.
I have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Barraza. Is there a second?
Second by Flores.
Motion has been seconded by Councilor Flores. Discussion by the board. Do we need a presentation or anything like that?
No. My understanding, they're just applying for a $20,000 grant for the zero emission.
Yes, that's correct.
I'm fine.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, I have a motion on the floor. It has been seconded. Let me have a roll call vote on the matter, please.
Javier Perea,
Yes.
Nora Barraza,
Yes.
Yvonne Flores,
Yes.
Kathy Harmon,
Yes.
Diana Morillo,
Mayor Murillo,
Yes.
thank you.
motion carries unanimously. Item number 13, board comments.
Mr. Chair?
Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I just want to thank Mr. Shea for really cleaning up that budget report where I can really understand it. It's just clearer to me, and I truly appreciate that.
I was going to say, it's different to today, right? Like, it was a lot easier to read. I agree.
Yes, thank you.
Any other discussion by the board?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Madam
I
Councilor.
too want to thank you, Mr. Shea, because it was very clear to me as well. It was just hard to follow the bouncing ball, like what line are we in? But other than that, thank you very much. And I want to thank Mr. Armijo also for all of your efforts and really bringing our community, our state, especially southern New Mexico together. And if we can get a huge bus to take all of us up to Santa Fe to let them know that we're really here, oh, man. I mean, it's kind of like, who is, what, anything south? Actually, Mayor Miyagishima said that anything south of Belen isn't really part of New Mexico. What? What? So anyway, but seriously, thank you so much for all your work, Mr. Amico, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Seeing and hearing no other comment by the board, if there is no objection, this meeting is now adjourned. I have 3:23 p.m.
And thank you, Sarah and Christina for
Yay.
Signatures, yeah.